Hey everybody, it's Mr. Rogers, and I want to talk a little bit about the Homeostasis Lab, which is also named the Pulse Rate Lab. And so, what we're going to do in this lab is we're going to check how your homeostasis works in your own body, and we're going to see how we kind of manage our pulse rate. And so, a pulse rate is measuring how fast your heart is beating. Um, and your heart beats faster when your body needs more blood because it needs more oxygen and sugars to move around and do the things that you're doing. So, ideally, you have a higher pulse rate when you're doing exercise, and you have a lower pulse rate when you're just sitting around doing nothing. So, every person has a different pulse rates. They're going to be affected differently in this. It doesn't make you abnormal, normal, whatever. Um, it's just the way it goes. So, first, you have to figure out how to get your pulse. Obviously, I have a picture here in the lab here. There's other ways to get the pulse too. If you can't figure out your wrist, you can find some other spots online where you can do it. You can do it on your neck. Obviously, there's I think something like 50 or 60 spots in your body where you can find a pulse. So there's options here. But the way I like to do it is I just take two fingers like it shows, and I go to the middle of my left wrist, and then I go over to about three quarters, and I can usually find it. Okay. Um, to make this simple, as you can read, you have to read all of this. First off, let me just be very clear. This is not a skimming through kind of lab because you're going to miss something and you're going to lose points. You need to read all of it. Let me repeat, you need to read all of it. And so, even I have like kids miss the top part here every single year, and it gets frustrating grading because it's right there. It's right here. So here you're going to measure your pulse for only 15 seconds. It's easier to measure for 15 seconds than for longer periods of time. You get, confused what number you're on and stuff with that. And so you're doing it for 15 seconds, but sorry, yawning. You're doing 15 seconds, but you're going to times it by four because you want it to be your pulse rate for over a minute, if that makes sense. There's 15 or four 15-second chunks in a minute. So if you do one 15-second chunk, you find out it's 15 um, pulse or heartbeats in that 15 seconds. You have one every second. Then you times it by four and it ends up being 60. You have 60 beats every minute. Okay, so that's what you're going to do. Anytime, because you're at home, obviously, if it says the group's average resting pulse rate, there's an option here for you. One, you could skip it because obviously you don't have a group. I mean, just being very frank with you, you're at home. Two, you have the option of doing this as a group and getting extra credit if you include one person from your household. So if you work through this with somebody in your house, take their pulse, so on and so forth. Um, and so that would be a good way for you to engage, people in your household with what you're doing. So there's three different sections. Please make sure you read through every one of them. There's tables here. Obviously, this is a Word doc, so you can try to make it a Google Doc and try to add stuff in, or you can print it and take pictures of it, or you can print it and scan it in, or you can write it out on a piece of paper and send it to me in some way. Whatever works best for you. At the end here, there are some questions, 1 through 9. Some of them are about experiment stuff, which we're going to talk about this week. Some of them are just general questions, so make sure you answer those. I would like a graph made. A graph is of, I think it explains here, section 3, right here. And I really am focusing a lot on the graph. I want to see how you guys make graphs because we're going to talk a lot about graphs this year, and this is your first one. And I want to kind of see where your level of understanding is. And then at the very, very bottom, there are some questions just about lab procedures and stuff like that. You can actually skip these for now. You can skip these for now because we're going to come back later in the week and do these when we kind of learn a little bit more about lab procedure. And we're going to use this lab as almost an example of what to do during labs. So I hope that kind of makes sense. I hope that you feel comfortable with the lab. I don't think it's that hard of a lab. It's usually one of the easier ones in the year. So good luck. Have fun. Make sure that you guys don't do anything too crazy where your heart explodes or something like that. So have fun.